Welcome to the Cryos webinar series. My name is Beatrice, and I'm a sales and customer care consultant at Cryos International Sperm and Egg Bank. This webinar is part of the Cryos webinar series. The series consists of educational videos, which we hope will help you on your fertility journey. Today's webinar is called How to Choose a Sperm Donor. In the first half of this webinar, I will take you through the practical aspects as well as the considerations and choices that go along with choosing a donor. In the second half of the webinar, we welcome Eloise Edington, founder and CEO of Fertility Help Hub and mother of 3 donor-conceived children. We also welcome fertility equality spokesperson Megan and Whitney Bacon-Evans from the lifestyle blog What Vegan Did Next for a talk about their processes of choosing a sperm donor and which considerations they've had along the way. So, how to choose a sperm donor. Throughout this little introduction, I will take you through who the sperm donors are, contact between child and donor, information about the donor, ID release or non-ID release, using an exclusive donor, and then at the second part of the webinar, we'll have a little chat with Whitney and Megan and Eloise. So who are our donors? Well, they're men between the age of 18 and 45. They have a healthy psychological and physical profile. More than 50% of them are in a relationship. Almost 50% of them have or are in the pursuit of a higher education. Also, 50% of them have a full-time job or are self-employed. And lastly, 50% of them also donate blood. A little bit about who the donors are. We have donors with a basic profile. The basic profile means that you will know the race, the ethnicity, eye color and hair color, height, weight, blood type, and education or profession. With an extended profile, you get all the basic information, but you'll also get childhood photos, a description of the looks and personality of the donor. You can also have a little writing that the donor has chosen to share and a bit about his family tree. We also have adult photos, which is only applicable for ID release donors with an extended profile only. Adult photos means that the donor has had a professional photographer take 5 to 6 high-quality pictures of him as an adult. A sperm donor chooses to either have a basic or extended profile. Then he chooses whether or not he wants to be an ID release or non-ID release donor. In addition to choosing to be an ID release donor with an extended profile, he can then choose whether or not he wants to have adult photos available in his profile. So, should there be contact between the child and the donor? Would you like for your future child to be able to contact the donor? What do we consider identifying information? Well, identifying information is when your child turns 18, he or she can contact Cryos to obtain the name, last known address, and telephone number of the donor. This is only applicable for ID release donors, as they have chosen to share this information after 18 years. For non-ID release donors, Cryos will never disclose their identity. So why would you choose one or the other? Well, first we can talk about what the differences between the two. So what is the non-ID release donor? Well, they're also known as anonymous or closed donors. So the information that you see is on the donor's profile, and that's it. There's no possibility of knowing the donor's identity. And why would you choose a non-ID release donor? Well, you could choose this if you want to know as little as possible. If you don't want the donor to play any role in your child's life. It could also be that your country simply does not allow to use other donors than non-ID release donors. why should you choose ID release donor? Well, an ID release donor is also known as an open or known donor. Being an ID release donor means that all identifying information will be released after your child turns 18 years. Your child decides whether or not they want to make this contact or not. So why would you choose this? Again, if you want your child to have the possibility of contacting the donor and potentially learn more about the donor and the choices that he made to be an ID release donor, it could also be that your country only allows the use of this type of donor. And then we have the exclusive donors. Donor exclusivity means that when you choose this donor, he will be reserved for you and your partner only. You can find our exclusive donors marked in the donor search, but please note that not all donors can be exclusive. To be able to purchase an exclusive donor, it requires a one-off payment wherein the price includes a 10-year sperm storage, 3 shipments, and a quota reservation. So I want to welcome you all to the second part of the webinar, where I want to welcome Eloise, Megan, and Whitney to this little chat. So Megan and Whitney, would you kindly like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Well, I'm Megan.
And I'm Whitney.
And we are wife and wife.
And we're also content creators, we're YouTubers, bloggers, and we've been online since 2009, so over a decade. And we just share our life and our love online and offline. And yeah, and we work together side by side every day, and it's wonderful.
We're going on nearly 13 years, and we are currently on our baby journey.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you. And Eloise, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Eloise, and I'm the founder and editor of Fertility Help Hub, which is a lifestyle fertility platform. And the reason that I started it over 2 years ago was because my husband and I struggled to have our 3 children, who are 4 and 2 now, a 4-year-old daughter, and then boy-girl twins, who are 2.5. We struggled to have them because my husband is infertile. So we went down the donor sperm route abroad to have our children.
Well, welcome to the 3 of you. So today we're going to be talking about how to choose a sperm donor, but from more a personal perspective. So I would like to start with you, Eloise. What were your initial thoughts when you went about to choosing a sperm donor?
Well, it was a bit of a strange time for us because we were choosing a donor not knowing if we would use the donor, because we needed to choose a donor in a hurry. In a couple of weeks, ready for my husband to undergo the microtesty operation abroad that he was having. So we knew we might be using the donor. We knew the chances of the surgeon finding sperm in his sperm retrieval microtesty operation were slim. However, it was never 100% that we would be going down the donor route. So it's very strange selecting something when you're not knowing if you're going to be using it or not. And because he was dealing with male infertility diagnosis, he was obviously grieving that and not knowing whether they would find sperm from him. So actually everything happened very, very quickly, and we picked a donor. We both had a preferred donor each, and after many a discussion, we decided to go with mine. I like the fact that his celebrity lookalike was Jake Gyllenhaal, and then we actually had an issue with that donor, so we had to pick again just before I started my egg retrieval in New York. So it was quite a stressful time, but back and forth, we decided to go with my husband's preferred donor, and that's who is the biological, I guess, father of our children.
Wow, that's been quite a journey for you.
So there were definitely ups and downs during the process, but what we've ended up with now, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, amazing. And you have 3 beautiful children.
We're very fortunate. We are. Yeah. It was tough getting there.
Yeah. I understand. Wow. And what about you, Megan and Whitney? How has it been for you to start up with this process?
Mm-hmm. Well, for us, slightly different because we both knew we'd have to use a sperm donor one day. Sadly, neither of us have sperm. So it was just kind of something that we always knew that we'd have to do. And we kind of agreed years ago, really, that there wasn't a known donor that we would want to use and that we would want to go down the sperm donor route because it's all medically screened and all that, really. And yeah, we didn't really have an issue with that as such. It just was more actually when it came to it, it was kind of a weird process and upsetting in the fact that we can't create a baby together. But there's no way we can combine our DNA and we have to find a stranger essentially to help us create a family. But we got over that.
We did. And yeah, for us, it was really important, though, for us to find someone who looked like both of us, so had both of our characteristics and even some personality traits as well. So that was quite interesting looking through and trying to find someone who's going to match well with both of our DNA and siblings as well. So yeah, we after a journey, we definitely were able to find, you know, our perfect donor on Cryos. So it was a really nice result, and we were over the moon, weren't we?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Did you have any concerns regarding your choice?
Not really, because of the fact that we went with Cryos International, so we felt very confident in all the sperm donors that are on the website because of how like medically screened they are, but also the amount of information that is on the website. So we looked at UK sperm banks and weren't happy with the amount of information that we get because you can't see any photos or get much more information beyond characteristics and medical background and that. So we decided that we much preferred getting to see baby photos and adult photos and the personality questions if they have the extended profile, and also hearing their voice the handwritten letter to the future children. So all of that made it not a difficult process in the end of feeling like we're picking someone that's doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, when we read the letter to the child, it really just sealed the deal because it was such a beautifully written letter of why this nice human being would want to do this. It just meant so much to us, and it's going to be a nice way to tell our future children as well. So yeah, it just was a really wonderful experience.
Well, that sounds nice. And the fact that it does make it's important to get that you feel that you've gotten the information that you need to be able to make a good choice for yourselves.
Exactly.
For your future child.
Yeah, because it's based on so many different factors. So it's great to have all the information that you can have as much as possible.
Yeah. Was that kind of the same thing for you, Eloise, and your husband?
I think it was probably a slightly different process because we were trying to match my husband, and no two people are ever the same. So once we'd narrowed down the search of blue eyes and dark hair and 6'3", we actually weren't, and Caucasian, we weren't left with many options. And so I kept saying to my husband, let's broaden the selection. Let's put in green eyes, brown eyes, because I have greeny brown eyes. So there's no certainty that the children will have blue eyes anyway. And out of the three, one has blue eyes.
Oh,
wow.
And one has red hair, which has definitely come from the donor side. So just whatever you look for, or whatever seems of importance at the time, those sort of things go out the window when the child is there. It's like anyone who's having a baby. Naturally, you don't know what the child is going to look like. There could be so many things further down the line that come through genetics. So it's impossible to know.
That's true. And that's the fun thing about genes. You never know. And as you said, you can't be guaranteed that your child will end up with blue eyes or brown hair, as this definitely is the gene pool that has the larger effect on when mixing two different persons' genes. So yeah, definitely. So when you were considering to choose a donor, what was the most important thing? Now, in your case, Eloise, your part, you needed someone to match your husband, but were there any other criteria for you that were important?
It wasn't just, apologies, it said my internet's unstable. It wasn't just looks, it was also personality. So he's very funny. He's got a seriously dry sense of humor. So we wanted to find someone that we could hear from his interview or read from what he'd written that matched in that area as well. And we feel that we have that with our donor. We just wanted to get a feel for someone who had some similarities in character as well as appearance. And also, educationally, as we were selecting, we thought, well, we may as well select someone who's done well at school, who's ambitious from what we can see. Our donor studied politics at university. So those things also matter to us as well as the medical side.
So did you find that you had a lot of information available about the donor?
We had childhood photos available. For us personally, that was enough, because I think, especially for my husband, seeing the donor as an adult would probably make him feel emasculated slightly.
Yeah.
Whereas seeing childhood photos, you can't not love a child's photo, can you? I can seriously see my children. I can see the donor in my children. So when I look at them, sometimes I think, gosh, we should get the photos out and look at them side by side, because there are definitely some traits, physical traits that have come through. But yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
It was about the amount of information that was available about the donor.
And similar to both of you ladies, also audio recording, which I was slightly terrified to listen to. We were slightly terrified to listen to at the beginning. Some people we listened to, we said straight away, nope, that's not the right person, just from the voice, which sounds terrible, doesn't it? But you can gauge quite a lot from someone's voice, whether they were, the sense of humor wasn't there or whatever it was. We liked his voice, and also the letter to the children, future children, and things like that. So similar.
Yeah, again, it's I can't begin to imagine the process for any of you to go through, because I've not been there. So I can understand that having to process all this amount of information must be a bit of a handful, and especially when it's also dealing with male infertility. But again, also in your case, Megan and Whitney, being two women that you need to have an outsider come in and help you to obtain that dream. So what were you mentioned before that you wanted to have a donor who shared the similar traits in both of you, but has there been any thing that was more striking for you when choosing than some of the other things that you found in the donor profile?
Yeah, I think what was quite funny in the fact that when we were looking for someone who had similar features, we have very different shaped face. Even though people think we look alike, our features are very different. So when we initially picked one that we have ended up going with, but at first he was one of our favorites, and we thought as a child he looked quite like what Whitney looked like as a child, but didn't necessarily have my features, but we just found him really cute in that sense and liked all his answers and everything else. And then it wasn't until we actually saw his adult photo that we realized he actually had my features as well, which is kind of cool.
It was wild.
So that was kind of weird. Yeah, so that kind of just sealed the deal when we saw that he kind of had similar characteristics to both of us. Obviously child may come out and look completely different. We know that, but that helped in the feature aspect. But I think what surprised us was hearing the voice was something that really did seal the deal or get rid of someone. It was really weird, like just the way they spoke or the words that they said, or because they're reading out their letter that they've written. So the fact that he had such a nice letter and then he had such a nice voice when he read it as well, kind of just, it was something we didn't think about, but it was like an additional nice thing that actually helped us pick him.
Yeah, it was all these unexpected things along the way that just like sealed the deal, which was really nice. And it was really nice to have all the options as well to help us make that decision. And we felt so confident in our decision. Like to this day, I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad like he's our donor. He sounds like perfect.
Almost a year later that we've picked him, and we're still very happy. And it's funny that Eloise said that that's the same sort of background. Like he studied marketing, so we work in marketing, so I thought that was quite cool. And there's lots of different personality traits that were similar. Yeah,
he's very family oriented. And loads of things.
Loves to
travel. That just like ticked a lot of the boxes about who he is as a person and his character.
Yeah, it seems very kind.
Yeah, very kind, and that's really important when passing on that.
Definitely.
which we find. So. Yeah.
Can I ask you, did you ever disagree about the selection? Was there one that one of you liked more than the other and it was kind of hard to make a decision?
No. I mean, Whitney's a lot more decisive than I am. So I think she was very much like, yep, he's the one. But I probably was the one that, aside from Whitney, I'm pretty sure I would wake up and I'd be like, right, I need to look for all the sperm donors again, just to double check. I look at every single one. And, and as bad as it sounds, when you get the adult photos, it does make a decision for you as well. Because he's so cute. Click. I'm like, whoa, no, not. And as bad as it sounds, I was like, yeah, no, he's not the one. No. So I looked at a lot more probably than Whitney.
I was decisive. Like for me, when I know, I just had a feeling, and I just knew. And the fact that Megan was able to confirm that after she looked through every one, that was great.
Exactly.
So we kind of attacked it from both ends.
There was barely a runner up, really, was there? Really,
no.
Not really. So
it was just meant to be.
Yeah.
So.
Well, going with that, did it take you a long time to get to that point where you said, "This is it"?
I think I don't honestly know how long it took us, if it was weeks or months. I can't really remember now. It was last year with everything going on with COVID wise, but I just remember it kind of thinking of Cryos reminds me of the summer. I think it was like a whole, from like March, maybe throughout summer. I think we bought our sperm in August. So as to where we actually.
It was the highlight of our
how long
2020
we
for
know.
sure.
But yeah. And but I think the thing for us, once we decided that he probably was the right one, it was then like panic mode of making sure that we bought his sperm as soon as possible, because even though we had like 20 vials, we could have logged on the next day and he could have been gone. So we're like,
Exactly.
But the good news is we do know he is still coming back and donating. So
and we have enough vials for siblings and a few.
Well, no, we don't know that yet.
I mean, touch wood. What was I even thinking? Yeah, but
I could use them all. We've got 5 vials.
Yeah, so I mean, the theory is hopefully in a dream world we have enough for siblings and for each of us to have a go just in case. So I mean, we thought that was a good number to benchmark against, but knowing we can hopefully buy more if need be. Yeah, like Megan said, we don't know what our journey entails, but
I could easily go through all 5 in like
exactly. Hoping for the best, but I guess we are prepared for the reality as well.
Just have to keep an eye on his profile, make sure there's some more stock, and order some more if it looks like I'm not getting pregnant anytime soon.
Yes, no, and that's the thing that as you mentioned, you can log in and find the donor, have a lot of samples for sale, and then come 2-3 days later, and all the stock has been sold out.
You have not. We're looking at him daily. Someone else is looking at him daily. Yeah, and it is that is a strange thought as well, because not only then has like the vials gone, but the more vials you see gone, the more that other people have bought him, and obviously he's going to go to other families. But it is a kind of strange feeling of knowing that there could be other sort of siblings as such out there one day. But obviously we do know it. I think even though they go to like 10 families in the UK, that sometimes they only go to like end up creating 2 families sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Not often
it can vary a lot.
We'll see. Who knows?
Also, when you see them go, you know that he's popular for a reason, so you kind of makes you want to have him, doesn't it?
If he sits there for ages, you're like, okay, I made the right choice. No.
Exactly.
And then as you also mentioned, it also comes down to gut feeling. It has to feel right. And that's one of the things that when we in the customer care department, we sit down and chat with clients, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'm in between donors. And what do you think? and my advice is also always, I tell them to go with their gut feeling. And if they can't feel that, then it's not the time yet. then they should give it a little bit more time, because you should feel comfortable. And that's not belittling the choice, because it is for some can take a long time to find a given donor, and then there's still the uncertainty, but it still needs to feel right.
Exactly.
For all, and I can only guess that would also be the case for you and your husband, Eloise, that it had to not only feel right for you, but certainly also for your husband, that he felt that he was also part of it. And as you said, you wanted to have the donor to match his traits, not just characteristic wise, but also in some of his features, as with humor and higher education.
Absolutely. We picked him. We had to pick him in about 3 weeks. So we were quite pressurized. The grief was going on, the uncertainty about going to New York and prepping for IVF and his surgery. I was injecting him. I was preparing for my injections, injecting him for his operation. So it was a big, scary time. And so we actually had a bit of help from my mum and my husband's dad. My husband's dad got out the baby photos of him just to sort of look side by side, which he said was kind of a bittersweet moment, knowing that it was something for a good thing, but it was sad that he wasn't going to be genetically able to have them. And then I got my mum involved just because I'm so indecisive. So I just wanted another set of eyes. When my husband would go, right, done, yep, done.
That's funny.
I just wanted, another person sort of, what do you think of him? And maybe, I think we got it down to 3, and then we shared it with my mother and his father.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. My sister, who went through IVF, so I think she had to ponder whether they would need a sperm donor one day, but they didn't in the end. But they went through 4 rounds of IVF, so because she was a lot more clued up on the whole fertility journey, so we kind of looped her in more when we'd made a decision pretty much that he was the one, but I wanted to send it to her first and see what she thought, and she was like, yeah, get him now. I was like, okay.
So what would your advice be to other women going through the whole fertility journey and go about choosing a donor?
I think what you said as well about like trust your gut feeling. I mean, yes, there's so many other things to consider, but you really have to go with your gut and how it feels. And like the next morning when I woke up, I had this overwhelming feeling of like we made such a great decision. And I think just trusting your gut and getting okay with it, you're in your mind and in your heart is incredibly important. In addition to making sure that they're going to fit the criteria that you're looking for in a donor, and just a person as well that you're going to share DNA with your child. And with Cryos International, it is amazing because you do have the ability to look at the characteristics in an in-depth level, and you can see a genetic breakdown, and they're medically screened to the T, and it's just so comforting as well, knowing that all bases are covered. And for me, that was very important.
I will also say that you will probably have a criteria, but it will probably have to change depending on your results.
Yes,
because like as we thought we'd have like hundreds to pick from, and we really didn't. And we also didn't even fully fit the criteria as such. I can think in the end, we were looking for blonde or dark blonde, and I think our sperm donor might even have brunette hair or dark blonde hair, but I think one of his siblings had blonde hair. So in the end, we're like, okay. We were both born naturally blonde, just saying. We did have blonde hair. A little bit fake now. So we were like, oh, well, never mind then. It was like in our head, we thought, oh, yeah, blonde donor would be easy to find. But I guess it's not.
That is very true, actually. And all that kind of went out the window when his other characteristics and things like they made up for it. So, yeah, just be prepared, like Megan said, just to broaden your.
But we do know, especially for obviously same-sex couples, that a lot of the time, they are looking for either a sperm donor that would match both features, or they're actually going to look solely on like the other partner. So one person is going to carry, and then so therefore maybe it's a bit easier if they are narrowing it down to just like one person's features and personality traits, as opposed to trying to get like a mix. But yeah, it's a different journey for everyone really, and you just got to trust your gut. And
trust your gut.
I would say look at everyone that meets your criteria. They'll make it easy.
Yes, I'm glad, and then Megan did that because it just, solidified the fact that he was the one. So
you have got to stop looking though. One day, you just got to stop. Like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, because you could keep looking, couldn't you, forever?
I'm not going to log back on. I'm not going to look again. That would be like, oh no.
No.
Maybe choice.
The same question goes for you, Eloise. I know that your case, it was more of a rush, but again, we know that there are cases where it has to go really fast for one or another reason. So what would your advice be to women having to rush into this?
Mine would be about open versus anonymous. We probably didn't have enough support going into the selection process, and we went to America, so we had the choice. We went with an ID release donor. So I think that people need to think about the future of the child, as well as how they feel in terms of whether that person will ever be, whether the child will ever want to be in touch with that person. Working in the fertility space that I work in now, in the trying to conceive community, I hear all stories of different journeys, and I hear a lot from donor conceived adults, and a lot who perhaps aren't able to contact their donor, may have issues with that. And so we did, in a bit of a hurry, did quite a bit of reading. And so for us personally, we decided to go down the open route, which I'm glad that we have, because the children have already started asking questions. Well, our 4-year-old has already started asking questions. She'll say things like, "We don't know his name, do we, mummy?" Things like that, because I try and talk about it a fair bit to bring it up. And I think that's another thing. Work out how you're going to have a narrative with your child or your children if you are. Don't be afraid to talk about it, and you can talk about it from the beginning, because even if they're not ready to understand it, it helps you prepare and practice talking about it so that it doesn't feel like a thing that you have to do, and it doesn't feel like this sort of scary burden.
That's a very good and very important point that you just added, how to talk to your child about this, your future child. That's a very interesting and very good point. I don't think that many women have that in mind. Maybe not 100% when they go for the search. I think I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, that the first and main idea and how they go about it is to find someone who matches them emotionally, physically, and then they go with what's available in their country, because again, there are some country regulations that need to be met as well. In the UK, it's only ID release donors. In other countries, it's only non-ID release donors. And in other countries, again, you can use either. So it's definitely a very good point that you just made.
Yeah.
I think, I was just going to say that what I've also learned, being 4 years into having had the children, is that there becomes a point where it's not about your fertility journey anymore, and it's about their life story.
Yeah.
And we've reached that moment. So it's like my husband realizes that as painful as it is for him to talk about the infertility side and to bring up the donor and talk to the children about it, it's something we need to talk to them about as a family, because it's so important for their life and for their openness, and for them to feel that they are able to talk about it. Because I hear from lots of donor conceived adults that they felt afraid to talk about it when they were brought up. Sometimes that might be because of male infertility, or that they just weren't given the space or opportunity to do that. For some people, maybe they don't feel they need to, but for others they do. So I guess it's working out with your own children what suits their personality and what works. And I think that there are going to be so many stumbling blocks. I know there will be, but don't be afraid of them, because you can only do what you can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We've decided to tell our children straight away, as they're like babies, probably have a little book made that tells a story and have the letter so they know what the donor said. So they're very clear in their mind that it's just a nice man that helped to make them happen and he's not a father or anything like that. But we are glad that one day they can get some information about him, possibly meet up for a little coffee, but we hope as same-sex parents that they actually won't establish a full-on relationship. That would be weird to us, but obviously we can't stop it. But we do know most sperm donors don't want that. So it's a different way of looking at it, because obviously we don't have male infertility, which makes it harder in one sense, but also is still a strange kind of concept as well for us.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today. It's been an amazing time to listen to your stories, to listen to your journeys. I want to thank you for sharing your personal considerations about choosing a donor sperm and how to go about it, and giving your peace of mind on how other women could go about it too. So again, thank you for joining us today. I wish you all the best in your fertility journey, Megan and Whitney. It's going to be amazing to follow. And for you, Eloise, congratulations on your 3 amazing children. And I think it's so honorable how you're going about it with your children, sharing everything about their journey as well. As you said, it's their life story now. I think that's very beautiful. And this concludes our webinar for today. So stay tuned for next time. And I wish you all a beautiful day. Thank you.